So for step 24, the front lower arms, well, you can see we need to grab J2 and J1. We've got this M5 piece, and then you can see that we've got these screw pins that are going to go through this whole thing. And then we have these steering mount posts that also need to be placed in here. Now you can see that we're going to be using the liquid thread lock again, which I am going to do for this. I mean, these are the steering mount posts, so I think I will go ahead with that. So there are our arms, there's this piece here, and then of course our screw pins and the little screws that are going to be used to screw into the steering posts. So I'll set this up and we'll put this together. So let's get these arms onto this piece first. So you can see that based on the design, it looks like it's going to sit this way. You can see that these are the arms and note the direction. So obviously that's going to go that way. That's going to go that way. And these pieces here are going to sit like that in between. Basically, it's getting sandwiched between there. So let's do that. Oh, I got to put it in from the other side. See there? You can see that this is longer and fits inside of that. So that's how that's fitting in. So it's going to look like that. And then we have our screw pins. And the screw pins are coming in from the other side, going through the hole, and then we're going to screw them down. So let's do that on the one side. And because they're screw pins, once you get to the end, you're going to know. It's not going to be, you're not going to have to worry about stripping anything out. It'll just work. And the same thing with the other side. We'll stick that through there, through the hole. And now we'll screw this all the way in. Just do a little bit of a check on both. Yes, yes. So there are the front arms. If I turn it out over this way. Very cool. Excellent. So knowing that, this is the way it's shown in the diagram. We're going to be using some liquid thread lock again on the ends of these screws to go into the steering mount posts. Now, because they should never be, you're never going to be taking those off, I am going to do the liquid thread lock. So just to sort of protect the plastic, it may not matter, but I don't want to put the stuff on the top. I want to put it into the part that actually is going into the metal. I'm going to stick that one down there, hold it with my finger, and now we're going to take some of the liquid thread lock and put it on the back side here. Now I'm not going to overdo it here. I just want to make sure that it's enough is getting onto it. Enough is getting onto the threads, I should say. Let's try that again. Yeah, that's better. And now we'll take one of our steering mount posts, and we're going to take that and screw that in. Which it is. Technically, I've kind of screwed it in without, basically holding onto the steering mount post as opposed to screwing this in, but looks like that's good and tight. So we'll do the same thing with the other side. So I'm going to stick that through there, hold it with my finger, grab my bamboo stick that I've got here just to makes it easier to stick this stuff on. There we go. grab the other one. I mean, I guess I could hold this on this side while I screw it in on this. But it doesn't really matter which way you do it. And they're nice and tight. And it's not going to go anywhere. There we go. So that is step 24. We've got our arms on and our steering mount posts. So those, what was it, on the E4 pieces will end up being on the other side of that, which will end up keeping the steering nice and tight. Excellent. So step 24 is complete. So we're going to move on to step 25 and attach those front lower arms. So for step 25, attaching the front lower arms, well, you can see here that we're going to grab that steering rack that we built in a previous step. We're going to attach it. Note that it says attach first. So we need to attach the servo saver to that steering piece before we do anything else. This will all go down, and then we'll have the 3 screws that will screw this all down solidly to the chassis, and our steering system should be nice and free, and I'll be curious to see how well that works. So there are the 3 screws that we need. So I'll set this up and let's put this together. So obviously we're going to work with the steering rack first. Now note placement. Not only do you need to put this piece here onto the servo saver, note the direction of this. Because as you can see, the screws are facing down towards the inside of the chassis, not out. So if we grab our chassis here, you can see that we need to be able to snap that onto here. So I think I'm going to end up having to use the pliers. So let's do that. There we go. There it is. So in placing this, we have our steering mount posts. So those are going to go through there. So let's align that up. So we know that the steering mount posts are going to go into those 2 parts there. In fact, let me do it this way so you can see what I'm doing. We know that they're going to go onto into either hole on the steering. There we go. And then it's going to fit there. So you can see we've got the steering mount posts going through that steering system on either side. So knowing that, we've got to screw these down. Now I'm just going to hold this in place, but we know that we've got a screw at the top and we have the 2 screws here that are going into the front. So if I put this one in, I'm just going to start it. And I'll do the same thing with this end one. Interesting setup because it's like interesting that I'm not sure why, but you can see that it is correct. These are in the right spot, but notice that you've got, it's almost pushing back as though something isn't right. So apparently nothing's binding, it's just the way that it sits, but you see how you need to really push that in, it wants to bounce out. Well, it looks like that is how it's supposed to be. So let's screw that top one in. And I won't do it all the way. I want to make sure that these other ones go in first. Okay, so they're all in, so let's screw this one all the way down. Now these are tapping screws, so once you get to the end you'll know. And it's going into hard plastic, so it'll just stop. There we go. So final screw, the one at the back. I'll just do a final check all the way around. Yep. Okay, so that is in. And you can see underneath, if I pull these down, that what I was concerned about the servo, but notice that it's actually not touching the servo saver. The screws I thought were. It's just the way that this is designed. There's a bit of a sort of a bounce pushback, so that when it's sitting, you do have to push this into place to get that final screw down. But this is very, very cool, because if you think of your typical Hornet suspension, there's just so much more going on here. It's a lot beefier, and that steering should really make a difference compared to the original Hornet. So that's very cool. So that means that step 25 is complete. So we're going to move on to step 26 and work on the front upper arms.